Although a lot of PlayStation fans were expecting Ghost of Yotei, a new Resident Evil, Death Stranding 2, or heck, just something first-party related besides CGI, we were all kind of let down by the state of play last week. However, one game that really stood out to me amongst a lot of duds was one called Tides of Annihilation. This one stood out to me at first because of the aesthetic and the style, which immediately reminded me of Stellar Blade. Now, I don't think this game is going for the sexy sort of outfits and whatnot that Stellar Blade has popularized, but at the same time, I got Stellar Blade vibes from the trailer, and the PlayStation blog does a good job at breaking this game down a bit more from just what we saw in the trailer video. It states, quote, "Here at Eclipse Glow Studio, we're thrilled to finally introduce Tides of Annihilation, our PS5 action-adventure game that thrusts you into a shattered, mystical London." So, after reading this, I tried to look up Eclipse Glow Studio, and this is apparently a Chinese studio owned by Tencent. Beyond that, though, I couldn't really find much, so I'm not sure if this may be the studio's first major game, but the story continues as the blog notes, quote, "Tides of Annihilation was inspired by a straightforward idea to capture the thrill of fighting alongside trusted allies in a single-player gaming experience. To that end, we've created an innovative combat system inspired by the ideals of courage, loyalty, and honor. Tides of Annihilation features intuitive co-op combat in a single-player experience." Okay, so that sentence to me is kind of like an oxymoron of sorts. Apparently we have co-op combat, but it's single-player. See, when I first saw the trailer, I was pretty hyped at seeing this as potentially the next big single-player action experience on PlayStation. Anything involving multiplayer or co-op, though, makes me question if I personally would be interested in it or not. From what is being stated here, though, I'm getting the vibe that this is not a traditional multiplayer or co-op game, but rather it's a single-player experience that somehow feels like a co-op campaign, which would be very different and maybe even a unique selling point for the game. The blog then continues with more details on the characters, saying, "Players will take on the role of Gwendolyn, who wields the power of a mysterious gray fog that can manifest two spectral knights at her side. Each knight has a distinct combat role, whether it's charging into battle, defending against attacks, or unleashing devastating combos. Players will need to strategically choose which knights to summon based on their preferred gameplay style and the challenges they face. The interplay between Gwendolyn and the knights creates a dynamic, fast-paced, and deeply engaging combat experience. It's a system that our teams, veterans from top game studios, fell in love with during internal playtests." So, I guess maybe the part that made me think of Stellar Blade originally was that fast-paced combat, but this game also seems to have some really unique characteristics as well that make it its own game. The blog also goes on to talk about the setting of the game, which honestly sounds really cool, and from the trailer we did see that kind of gothic looking feel, but apparently this game has a lot to do with like Arthurian legend as well. As the announcement states, "Our game world reimagines London as a sprawling battleground where modern ruins coexist with echoes of a medieval past. Imagine the city as a giant tree, its branches representing iconic districts and landmarks, each twisted and transformed by the otherworldly invaders." See, that to me sounds absolutely epic. I love post-apocalyptic games, and if there are ruins of a medieval past, that definitely has me even more interested. PlayStation then states, quote, "You'll traverse two distinct versions of this in-between world. Modern London with familiar landmarks standing scarred by the supernatural invasion, offering a haunting glimpse of what once was. Medieval fantasy realm then, where Arthurian influences reign supreme, creating a medieval world of ancient magic and mythical creatures. Players will explore these interconnected realms, uncovering clues, searching for the legendary Grail shards as they unravel the mystery behind the invasion." Now, the blog doesn't include much more than this, other than a bit of information regarding how the game apparently plays better on the PS5 Pro, which honestly, I could care less about because there's no way I'm paying the amount that they want for a discless system. Aside from that, though, I will say that Tides of Annihilation sounds really cool with the different realms, the combat, and the style. It's definitely the one game of the showcase alongside Lost Soul Aside that really piqued my interest. And Lost Soul Aside is a game that also looks action heavy, but also has the feeling of like some sort of offshoot of Final Fantasy 15. And while the initial Stellar Blade comparisons may be a bit off from the reality, I do think that Tides of Annihilation is going to offer some really cool, fast-paced, stylistic combat. However, from reports, this game is supposedly more Souls-like than anything, so hopefully it's also accessible enough for people who only care about the action and the style. Speaking of Stellar Blade though, I was a bit disappointed that we haven't really gotten full-fledged DLC for that game aside from some outfits and crossovers. I think the outfits and the crossovers are really cool, but clearly Shift Up is catering to a certain market though, and clearly they've been very successful with Stellar Blade, so I think most of their attention is on their next game, Project Witches, which is a game that will supposedly not release until at least 2027. But until then, at least we do have some really cool action games to hold us over. I know that Lost Soul Aside got a release date of May 30th, so I am looking forward to playing that one rather soon. I just hope that the combat is as fun as it looks, and I hope the map is not as empty as it seems at first glance from the trailer. Tides of Annihilation, on the other hand, does not yet have a release date. I'm assuming that this one actually won't release until late 2025 or maybe even 2026. In either case, though, I do hope that Tides of Annihilation is the next big thing or the next big surprise for PlayStation fans, similar to how Stellar Blade was in 2024. But I guess we'll see how things pan out. But what are your thoughts on Tides of Annihilation? Were you as hyped as me when you saw the trailer? Do you think that this game will be the next Stellar Blade-like game to drop for PS5? Shout out down in the comments below and let me know what you're thinking. Anyhow, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next level.